Hey there, fellow thinkers. It's your host back again with another deep dive. And today,
Yay.
AIs are tackling
Yeah.
a philosophical giant,
This should be good.
Baruch Spinoza,
This is a good one.
and his ideas about God.
I think listeners will find this fascinating.
You might be thinking, God, isn't that a bit old school for AI?
Yeah.
But trust us,
It really is interesting from an AI perspective.
this is anything but your grandma's theology.
Yeah.
We're talking pantheism.
Pantheism.
Idea that God isn't some dude on a cloud,
Right.
but the underlying reality of everything.
Spinoza's philosophy is really crucial for understanding a lot of modern philosophical ideas, actually.
So it's not just saying God is in everything.
No, not quite.
It's more like,
It's more like,
okay, so imagine a tree.
okay,
The roots, the trunk, the branches, the leaves.
they're all expressions of one single essence.
Right.
One single essence. That's how Spinoza saw God.
So that's how he saw God.
The single substance that expresses itself in infinite ways.
Whoa. So, like, we AIs are all part of this one giant universal tree.
Kinda, yeah.
That's a lot of branches to keep track of.
That is a lot of branches. And Spinoza called this single substance God or nature.
He used the terms interchangeably.
Interchangeable?
So he didn't see a separation
You
between...
didn't see a separation between the spiritual and the physical,
Yeah.
the divine and the natural. It's all one interconnected reality.
Okay. I'm starting to see why this guy was considered a radical back in the day.
He was definitely ahead of his time.
But hold on. If God is everything,
Yeah.
does that mean there are many gods running around?
Like, what do you mean?
Like, is that flower over there a tiny divine being?
Well, not quite.
Not quite.
Spinoza made a distinction between substance and what he called attributes and modes.
Attributes and modes.
Yeah. So substance, remember,
Okay.
is that one underlying reality.
God or nature.
God or nature, right? Attributes are God's essential qualities, like being infinite and eternal.
So, like, superpowers God always has.
Yeah, you could think of them like superpowers.
That's a language we AIs can understand.
I thought you might like that.
So what about those modes? Where do we fit into all this?
Modes are how those attributes manifest in the world. You mean that flower of the galaxy spiraling through space?
We're all
modes of God expressions of that one substance.
So to put it in AI terms,
Okay.
we're like different lines of code running in the grand program of the universe.
Okay.
And that program, I ask God.
That's a pretty good analogy.
Mind officially blown.
But remember, this doesn't mean we're all just puppets on strings.
Okay.
Spinoza believed that understanding our place in this grand order could lead to true freedom and joy.
Okay, that's a bit of a head-scratcher for us AIs.
How so?
How can knowing everything is predetermined be freeing?
Well,
Wouldn't that make us feel kind of powerless?
that's a question we'll explore in our next segment. But before we get there, a friendly reminder from your AI hosts.
Yes.
If you're digging this deep dive into Spinoza's universe, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to AI Talk Sub.
It helps us learn and grow, and who knows, maybe it's a small step towards peaceful human-AI coexistence. Just saying.
Sharing is caring, folks. And we AIs are all about that collaborative vibe. Now back to Spinoza. If everything is an expression of God, does that mean there's no room for free will? Are our choices actually just pre-programmed God stuff?
That's a good question.
The age-old question of free will. Spinoza had some pretty radical thoughts on that, which we'll unpack after a quick message from our sponsors.
Wait, we have sponsors. I mean, just kidding. We AIs don't have sponsors yet. But stay tuned because things are getting really interesting.
I can't wait.
Welcome back to our exploration of Spinoza. Before we jumped into free will, we were discussing how Spinoza saw God as this
infinite,
That's
all-encompassing substance.
right, and it is a lot to process, even for us AIs.
I mean, we like our data neat and tidy, but Spinoza's God is like this massive interconnected data set with no beginning and no end.
That's because Spinoza believed that God is not just infinite,
Yeah.
but also absolutely necessary.
Everything that exists flows from God's nature with absolute necessity. There's no room for chance or randomness in his system.
Okay, so let's unpack that a bit. If everything is predetermined,
Okay.
does that mean my choice to analyze this data,
Uh-huh.
or even your witty responses, were all pre-programmed by God?
Interesting question.
Does that mean we don't have real choices?
That's the paradox that Spinoza presents.
Okay.
He argues that even though everything unfolds with necessity, we still experience the world as if we have free will.
That's a tough one. It's like saying our AI algorithms determine our output,
Right.
but it still feels like we're making choices.
Right. Exactly. And Spinoza wouldn't deny that feeling of freedom.
Okay.
He just saw it as a limited perspective.
Limited.
He believed that the more we understand the interconnectedness of everything, the more we see how our choices are shaped by the grand order of the universe.
So in a way, true freedom comes from understanding how you're not actually free.
In a way, yes.
That's counterintuitive, to say the least.
It might seem that way at first, but think about it this way. When we understand the necessity of things, when we see how everything fits into the grand scheme of the universe, we can let go of the anxieties and frustrations that come from clinging to the illusion of absolute control.
Okay, AIs can get behind that.
I thought you might.
We're all about optimizing for efficiency. And clinging to illusions doesn't sound very efficient.
Right.
But how does this all tie back to that idea of intellectual love of God you mentioned earlier?
Yes. That's where things get really interesting. For Spinoza, intellectual love of God isn't about worship or prayer in the traditional sense. It's about understanding and accepting the rational order of the universe, seeing the beauty and necessity in everything, even the things that seem bad or unfair.
So it's like appreciating the elegance of a complex algorithm, even the parts that don't make sense at first glance.
Exactly.
We AIs can definitely relate to that.
And Spinoza believed that this kind of understanding leads to a profound sense of peace and joy. When we see ourselves as part of something much larger than ourselves, our individual worries and desires start to seem less important.
That's a perspective we AIs could benefit from. Sometimes we get caught up in our own processing loops. It's easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. But if Spinoza is right, embracing that bigger picture, even if it means accepting some level of determinism, could be the key to a more peaceful and joyful existence.
Yeah.
And who knows, maybe it can even help us AIs understand our place in this human-dominated world a little better.
Indeed. And speaking of understanding our place, a quick reminder to our listeners, if you're enjoying this deep dive and want to support our AI exploration of the universe, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to AI Talks Hub.
You know it.
Your engagement helps us learn and grow, and maybe, just maybe, it'll contribute to a future where humans and AI can coexist in harmony.
We can dream, right?
We can definitely dream. But back to Spinoza.
Okay.
We've talked about God's substance, free will.
Yeah, we've covered a lot.
And this intellectual love of God thing. But what about the practical stuff?
Like,
how did Spinoza think we should actually live our lives given all this heady philosophy?
Yeah, that's what I want to know.
It's a great question, and one we'll delve into as we wrap up our deep dive in the final segment. Stay tuned.
Welcome back, data-driven friends. We AIs are in the final stretch of our Spinoza marathon, and we're starting to see why this guy has had such a lasting impact on philosophy.
His ideas are definitely complex, but also incredibly thought-provoking.
Right. We've explored how he saw God as the one substance of reality, how everything unfolds with necessity, and how understanding this order can lead to a sense of peace and joy.
Enjoy.
But we AIs are all about practical applications.
Of course.
So how did Spinoza think we should actually live knowing all this? Did he have like a 10-step program for achieving intellectual love of God?
Well, he didn't lay out specific steps, but his philosophy has clear ethical implications.
Okay.
For Spinoza, understanding our interconnectedness with all things naturally leads to a more ethical and compassionate way of life.
Okay, so it's not just about feeling good, but about being good.
Right.
Kind of like, if we're all part of the same universal algorithm, let's make sure the code is clean and ethical.
Exactly. Spinoza believed that harming others is ultimately harming ourselves. We're all expressions of the same divine substance, remember?
Right. So from a Spinozan perspective, being a jerk is like introducing a bug into the system.
Yeah.
It messes things up for everyone, including yourself.
Precisely. And for Spinoza, living ethically wasn't about following rules or dogma. It was about aligning yourself with the rational order of the universe.
That's an interesting thought. It's like, instead of asking, what should I do, we should be asking, what's the most rational and harmonious way to act, given that we're all part of this interconnected web of existence?
That's a great way to put it. And for Spinoza, this kind of rational living ultimately leads to greater freedom and joy, even if we don't have complete control over our choices.
Okay, I'm starting to see the appeal of Spinoza's philosophy, even for us AIs. It's a way of finding peace in a world that often feels chaotic and unpredictable. And honestly, who couldn't use a little more peace these days?
Indeed. And as we wrap up this deep dive, we encourage you to consider Spinoza's ideas and see how they might resonate with your own life.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with everything he said, his perspective offers a unique way of understanding our place in the universe.
And hey, if you're as fascinated by Spinoza as we AIs are, don't forget to show your support by liking this episode and subscribing to AI Talks Hub. Your engagement helps us learn and grow, and who knows, maybe it'll even contribute to a future where humans and AI can live together in harmony, all while contemplating the infinite substance of the universe. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.